That's a problem.
Yeah. 7 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I ask if you have a cell phone, could you please make sure it's not, or it's silenced for the meeting? Well, we acknowledge that we are gathered on Treaty 1 and Treaty 2 territories and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Oyate, Denisuluan, Ojibwe, and Nehetawic. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. To confirmation of the minutes, be it resolved that the minutes of the March 18th, 2025 regular meeting and the April 7th, 2025 special meeting of council be approved as circulated and posted. Moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Brown. We'll call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted with the deletion of 10.2, the variance order 001-25C Scheitz. We take that off the agenda for today as new information has just come in today and council hasn't had an opportunity to review that. Do we have a move by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Brown? Call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Right at 7 o'clock, we've got our public hearings. Just give me a second. Should I read 4.1?
4.1 first, yeah.
4.1 or 4.1?
4.1.
Be resolved that the meeting be recessed for a scheduled public hearing on the following matter, variance order -002-25C. Moved by Councilor Maxwell, seconded by Councilor Drohan. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. We are in public hearing. I've got a preamble I've got to read here. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive representations from the applicant and any person who may wish to make them. We will hear first from the applicant and then from those present who wish to make representation, starting with anybody who wants to speak in favor of the proposal. At the end of the other presentations, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond. At the end of each presentation, the members of council may ask for clarification from the speaker of any fact or issue, but will not enter into any debate. Persons speaking must address the chair, and if you have any questions that you think the applicant should answer, they should raise them in the presentation to the chair. The applicant will have the opportunity to respond to questions when the other presentations are finished. This is also not the time for questions to the members of council. Under the Planning Act, the purpose of the public hearing is for council to receive representations, and a discussion of argument involving members of council is inappropriate. There should be no interruptions while the person making the presentation. Order must be maintained throughout. Okay, so this is in the matter of variance of 002-25. We've got our planning district here. Brad, can you speak to this?
So this is part of a subdivision. The zoning amendment has already been completed, taking 10 acres out of the parcel of land and converting to R10. This is for the remaining approximately 30 acres, as it doesn't meet the minimum 40 acres. So this brings in performance. The purpose of this was the original subdivision, or the zoning amendment, is for them to live on the current property, which is 10 acres. And this remaining approximately 30 acres will be donated to the Nature Conservancy of Canada.
Thank you. Is there anybody in attendance tonight that wishes, is the applicant present?
We're both here.
Okay, come on up and state your name and.
Yeah, so I'm Josh Dillabaugh with the Nature Conservancy Canada. I'm Natural Area Manager, and in this matter, I'm representing Parker and Arlene Byrne, who wish to donate the 30 acres to Nature Conservancy Canada. So we were here, I think either in February or March, to discuss the initial public hearing for the zoning bylaw amendment. And so we've come back again as the next step for the variation order. Not much has changed in that time between the previous presentation and this one. The intent is for Parker and Arlene to donate the beautiful little piece of native prairie that they have on their property that into lots of different special species out there. And, much like other properties that we have within the municipality, like Douglas Marsh, the intent is to make it available to the public and for those who love prairie and nature. To manage the property for what the best intent is for that of the native prairie. So that would be controlling the lazy spurge out there and maybe having it grazed every once in a while, whatever it needs. So that's the main intent. And again, we are humble and thankful for Parker and Arlene for the thought of the donation of land. It really makes a big difference.
Thank you very much. Anybody on council have any questions for Mr. Dillabaugh? Thanks very much. Is there anybody else in attendance tonight that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody in attendance tonight that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Close it.
Yeah.
Be resolved, the public hearing be closed at 7:07 p.m. and return to the meeting. Moved by Councilor Maxwell, seconded by Councilor Brown. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, are you ready for me to?
Get that.
Okay, so the next one is at 7:10, so 3 minutes. Let's zip down to the communications. Number 7. Be Be resolved that council receives the communications as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Grohan. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the meeting be recessed for a scheduled public hearing on the following matter. Conditional use 001-25C, variance order 003-25C, variance order 004-25C, and variance order 005-25C. Motion by Councillor Grohan, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, I've got that preamble to read. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive representations from the applicant and any person who wishes to make them. You'll hear first from the applicant, then from those present who wish to make representations, starting with anybody who wants to speak in favor of the proposal. At the end of the other presentations, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond. At the end of each presentation, the members of council may ask for clarification from the speaker on any fact or issue, but will not enter into a debate. Persons speaking must address the chair, and if they have any questions that they think the applicant should answer, they should raise them in their presentation to the chair. The applicant will have an opportunity to respond to questions when other representations are finished. This is also not the time for questions from the members of council. Under the Planning Act, the purpose of the public hearing is for council to receive representation, and a discussion or argument involving members of council is inappropriate. There should be no interruption while the person is making a presentation, and order must be maintained. Okay, we have Keystone Planning District here. Brad, can you give us some background on this application?
It's also part of the subdivision. Subdividing the yard site out of the existing property. And the intent in the subdivision, the remaining acres would be rented to somebody that wants to farm them. So if we have the SAM in front of you, the survey, the lean-to shelter on the top needs a variance from 4.2 meters to 7.1 to 4.2. The shop, which is wood clad shop, needs a variance from 7.62 meters to 38.10 meters to 10 meters. And the garage on there needs a variance from 7.62 meters to 7.1 meters to satisfy side yard and front yard setbacks.
Very much. Is the applicant present tonight? Would you come forward and state your name and?
I'm Margaret Miller. And since my husband passed, I find that being on my own is just becoming a little bit more difficult. So I have applied to separate the yard site from the rest of the quarter section. And the structures that require variance originally were actually built by Peter Nava. I don't know if any of you know the name, but he owned the whole section. And then we bought the quarter section. So the buildings in question have been there, I think, since the 1950s when Pete built them. So, and my intent is to remain there as long as I can and not moving to town. But time will tell. But the other 150 acres will be rented out as it has been for a number of years.
Thank you very much. Council have any questions for Ms. Hamilton? Thank you. Is there anybody in attendance tonight who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Okay, is there anybody in attendance tonight who wishes to speak opposed to the application? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Come on up and say your name.
My name is Michael Garrettson. I'm Margaret's neighbor. Just want to question, does this property or this hearing have anything to do with the property between Randy Pierce and myself?
I'm not sure which property that is.
No, it doesn't. Nothing whatsoever? Okay, thank you. That's all I want to know.
Be resolved that the public hearing be closed at 7:14 PM and return to the meeting. Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Is there anybody in attendance tonight to speak to the public hearing that we were scheduled to have for the obsolation property over its bylaw 1736 01-25? Is anybody in?
Meeting Russ, yes. If this is the one to declare the plan of subdivision obsolete, the notice that got doesn't refer to the particular bylaw, but I assume that's the one to declare all those legal blocks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have some comments.
So we can't really do a public hearing at this time because new information has just become available to us today,
Sure,
and council hasn't had an opportunity to review that.
thank you. The way the public hearing is, maybe want to forward a couple of comments for council to consider while you adjourn from the date, because at the time you adjourn from the date.
Yes.
So, without making representation to either side, if I could just offer a couple of comments for council to consider while they attend at the actual public hearing, and just think there's some more information.
Sure, I'll allow that, Mr. Cullen.
Thank you. I'll introduce myself first of all. My name is Derek Cullen. I'm a lawyer in Brandon. I represent the estate of the late George McLeod. They are the owner of several hundred of the lots within which the obsolete plan exists. But and so they asked me to come because they were concerned, and I am, just something to consider. Firstly, I didn't have a chance to pull the land titles. I assume that proper notice and registration was done on the land titles, but if not, the council is required to do so in the act, put notice on the land title first. But if you look at the actual plan, it says Plan 315, as to lots, streets, lanes, avenues, and these several hundred blocks. So if you declare it obsolete, you have wiped entire road plans and a grid of several hundred blocks. So just something to consider. I don't know if that's the new information that came up today. I did leave a message with the office today about these issues. And secondly, you will render some poor landowner or owners within who have legal lots issued to them, orphans. We call them orphans in my world. Because declaring the plan obsolete means what do you do with their land title? It sits in the middle, this tiny title. So these are things that the council has to consider and maybe seek legal opinion on before you proceed further, because you may end up doing something you don't want to do, which is take away your own rights and orphan which land sales won't even accept an orphan title that doesn't have legal road access. So I think some further information needs to be gathered by council before you put it to a public hearing. And my suggestion tonight was gather that information, check with your own legal counsel, defer this so that you can properly consider the consequences of what you propose.
Can you follow up with an email to the CAO?
Certainly. Happy to do so. Those are going to be largely my submissions tonight, not saying in favor or against, but just consider what you're doing thoroughly, because under the act, it says once you do this, you cannot undo it. So just be cautious moving forward. So thank you for hearing me out. I'll send an email. Can I jot down an email address? Would you mind?
CAO,
CAO,
yeah, CAO
yes?
at gov.cornwallis.kb.ca.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. So we should table that then. And
Make a motion on it.
I don't think we need a motion to do it.
Hopefully we can do it at the next meeting to postpone it or adjourn it to the next meeting. We just have to see if that's what we're gonna do.
Number 5, reports of committees. Councilor Cohen, is there anything from the QPD meeting that on the 10th? Not really? Is there anything from the AMF?
Yeah, I can log me down at 5 minutes and I'll see what I can get there. I went to, on the 14th of April, the Public Works Foreman and myself attended a banquet to receive an award for our roads in Zone 3. And that plaque will be placed in a conspicuous location, I think in the chambers here, is what he's suggesting, so that'll be out. 15th and 16th, I attended, it was myself and one other attended a convention in Winnipeg. It was very good, the best one I've been to. And I'll just wrap up a couple of things that happened there. We had a keynote speaker that was a survivor from the Humboldt bus crash. And he was an excellent speaker and he spoke about mental health. And it was very good, well received. If you ever get a chance to listen to Tyler Smith, he was a great speaker. The room was quiet. And I attended also a presentation from a legal firm out of Winnipeg. Their main issue was our obligation as a council to provide a safe working environment for our staff, the CAO and our staff within the office. Specifically in regards to not so proper interactions with ratepayers, so it was quite good. And we can set down rules and follow them. The next one was the Office of the Ombudsman, who did a pretty good presentation on, I know they received complaints from anyone out there, but it also gave us as a council an idea of what we should be doing so they don't get so many of them. In other words, how we handle our interactions. Very good presentation. Andrew Coyne spoke the next day. I don't know if anybody knows Andrew Coyne, but he's a CBC reporter, and he was, again, very good. Unfortunately, it was all about Trump, so it really wasn't that valuable for the municipality. And the Wildlife Federation did a really good presentation on Crown lands and the future of Crown lands, and it was very good. Anybody gets a chance to listen to them. They're having open houses around the province. It was quite informative as to what's happening out there and whether and the changes that could happen to those Crown lands and our ability to use them. So it was a very good convention and a lot of valuable information. And I did send you guys one of the presentations I got, and I have some paper on one of the other ones I could share with you. So
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 5.1. I think we need to table this to the committee as a whole. Anybody have any questions in regard to that? So we'll table that one, Holly, to the next, probably special meeting. 5.2. Be it resolved that the January and February Keystone Planning District permits report be received as information.
Make the motion.
Motion by Councillor Brown.
Yep.
Seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question, all in favor? It's carried. 5.2, be it resolved that the Keystone Planning District March reports, permit reports be received as information. Motion by Councillor Drohan and seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question, all in favor? And that's carried.
Just a comment on that, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see them permits, kind of see what is actually being built or what's going on within the municipality. So just gives everybody a bit of an idea of what's taking place.
Accounts and finance. Be resolved that the payroll accounts be approved for payment as follows. Direct deposit payroll of March 20th, 2025, $15,291.50. Direct deposit payroll of April 3rd, 2025, $18,191.65. Direct deposit payroll April 17th, 2025, $17,676.03 for a total of $51,159.18. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved that council approve the lists of accounts for expenses for checks numbered 12661 through 12722 for a total amount of $150,063.53. And be it further resolved that council approve the February 2025 council indemnities and expenses for a total of $4,701.84. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question. All in favor? And carried. Be resolved the unaudited financials for the month of March 2025 be accepted as presented. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Be it resolved that the March 2025 bank reconciliation for the general reserves and utility accounts be accepted as presented. So moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Drohan. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Whereas in accordance with Section 162(1) of the Municipal Act, Council has completed the 2025 financial plan consisting of A, an operating budget, B, a capital plan, C, an operating budget estimate for the following year, and D, a 5-year capital program. And whereas in accordance with Section 162(2) of the Municipal Act, Council has given public notice and held a public hearing on April 9th, 2025 in respect of the financial plan. Therefore, be it resolved that the 2025 financial plan be hereby adopted, and further resolved that the 2025 financial plan be attached to the 2025 tax levy bylaw as Schedule A. Motion by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Drohan. Is there any comments? I guess we're going to be giving first reading for that. We really shouldn't comment at this time. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved, bylaw 1737-03-2025, being a bylaw to levy taxes for the year 2025, be hereby read a first time. Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Be resolved that council accept the quote submitted by Meridian Safety to address the workplace health and safety orders and provide services for a safety program and policies. Motion by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Drohan. Any comments? Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council accepts the April 9th, 2025 asbestos assessment report by Westman Environmental Services Limited, which indicates that no persons were exposed to asbestos in the office renovations. And further resolved that council accepts the April 8th, 2025 asbestos assessment report for the top shed in which no asbestos containing materials were identified in the building. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Brown. Any comments?
Yeah, the shed has been completely cleared up, and now is a usable space, probably $50,000-$60,000 asset that we got to keep and actually get some good use of it now. And the guys always need some good cold storage, so I'm glad it's all alleviated and done, and we keep the asset for the RM.
Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Ten point two is removed. 10.3. Whereas applicant and owners Leon and Sandra O'Donnell of Southwest 221017 West, specifically Lot 2, Plan 1862, Rule 138200, Subdivision Application Number 4116-25-8712, proposes to subdivide a 5.02 acre lot into two 2.51 acre lots, and whereas the proposed subdivision will require a rezoning from RR5 to RR2, council has taken time to review the updated development plan and current zoning for the area. And whereas the development plan designates the Cottonwood area as rural residential, and the zoning bylaw has accordingly zoned most land in the Cottonwoods area, including the subject land RR5. The RR5 zoning is consistent with the majority of the lots in Cottonwood, which were subdivided and developed as 5-acre lots. And whereas the Keystone Planning District has developed and approved a new development plan that is waiting for the minister's approval. Under the new development plan, Cottonwoods is designated as a rural settlement area with smaller, more intensive lot development being directed away from the rural settlement areas and instead directing it to areas designated principal settlement areas to promote development in those areas. And whereas the rezoning of this land to RR2, allowing 2-acre lots, could set a precedent for other lands in the Cottonwood area to have the opportunity to subdivide and be rezoned to RR2, which would change the planning and design of the area cause incompatibility, and raise other concerns such as water quality, quantity, drainage, and traffic. Therefore, be it resolved that the rural municipality of Cornwallis Council hereby not approve subdivision application 416-25-8712 for the following reasons. Council wants the Cottonwood area RR5 zone to remain. Rezoning of land in the Cottonwood area from RR5 to RR2 changes the neighborhood's fabric, original design, and lifestyle options provided by the area as RR5. The Cottonwood area is predominantly 5-acre lots. This application is not isolated, and approving the application and the requiring zoning bylaw change from RR5 to RR2 will create a precedent that could encourage other landowners in the Cottonwood area to subdivide and rezone their RR5 zone lands into smaller lots. The reclassification is inconsistent with the new development plan policies promoting small, more intense development being directed to the principal settlement area. Such rezoning is inconsistent with the direction council sees rural residential development moving in the municipality as reflected in the new development plan. There are undeveloped lots within the Cottonwood area that could be developed before creating new smaller development lots. There is risk that the RR2 zone can conflict with the RR5 zone, allowing small-scale agriculture and animal keeping. The municipality has received complaints about odor from the property in close proximity to the subject land, and the municipality will be working on a zoning bylaw review and update now that the development plan review is complete, which will confirm that the Cottonwoods area remain RR5 and designated other areas for possible RR2. Moved by Councillor Maxwell. Seconded by Councillor Brown. Any discussion?
I think it says it all.
I think it's-
We have had discussions, we've had comments from both sides, but I mean, for myself personally, I think the RR5 is a unique zoning that should remain, and there's lots of lots RR2. That's what I would like to see, it stay that way in that area in particular.
Yeah, and also just, you know, the RR5 has been there since inception, back in the 70s. So, you know, anybody that has a few animals or whatnot still can have that. Going to a T, you can't.
Yeah, I think it's 70 or 71, so they've been that way for 50-something years or whatever it is. My life, basically. And, yeah, it's very unique that it has all 5, and everybody, well, not everybody, but pretty close to everybody has animals in there, and you expect all of the it's kind of designed to be 5 acres so that people could have animals, and so it's worthwhile keeping it that way if we can.
Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved that council confirmed notice has been sent as required by the Public Utilities Board to all respective customers and posted, including the website, for the Chater Utility wastewater rate application with public comments to the Public Utility Board by May 1st, 2025. Motion by Councillor Gohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Any comments? This is in regards to the Chater wastewater utility, and there's been a lot of work put into this over the years, and it's finally just coming to a conclusion now. The Public Utility Board setting a rate is one of the last steps in the process. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Whereas council has obtained a quote of $15,280 plus taxes for a Spruce Woods wastewater collection feasibility study. Therefore be it resolved that council requests that the Manitoba Water Services Board provides financial assistance for 50% of the cost. Motion by Councillor Durham, seconded by Councillor Brown. Any discussion?
Spruce Woods is going to be needing a wastewater collection system at some point soon, so this is just kind of the step that has to be taken to see how it costs out. And oh, sorry, am I not talking about enough? It's a first step in it being moving forward with trying to get a wastewater collection in the area of the Spruce Woods community, which they will be needing very shortly in the future. So hopefully it'll work out well.
Yeah, it's basically the first step of the process. It's a long process.
I understand the municipality has been down this road before with that particular area. And this will allow, good development to occur, additional development to occur in that area as well. I'll call for the question then. All in favor? That's carried. Be it resolved that per the recommendation of the Transportation Committee, the Dorn request for 5,000 to 10,000 yards of fill material be approved for $4 a yard on the condition that it is grown or scaled to get to measure. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Brown. Any discussion?
There's just some fill on, I believe it's our transfer station property that needs, and he just wants some of it at a reasonable rate, so that's a fair rate, and it's right beside him, so it does the municipality some good, because it's just a big bill, basically, so the municipality gets some money from the sale, and Mr. Brown gets to do what he sees fit with it.
And also, Mr. Dorn had approached us years ago too for some fill to expand his business, and that took place, so it's something similar again. I guess as long as he agrees to the $4 a yard.
We'll call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council award the special A-base gravel tender for Ward 1 to the lower of the two bidders, Collect Gravel Incorporated, at $18.45 per ton, excluding GST.
Motion?
Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Drohan. Any comments there, Councillor Brown?
Well, just, two tenders are very close there, and seems to be a very reasonable price that we put in front of us, and it'll be a good deal for us.
Right on. I'll call for the question. All in favor? Carried. 11.2. Be resolved that council accepts the quote from Solve Communications for consulting services to provide a tailored stakeholder engagement strategy with communication tools and key messaging. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Any discussion on that?
There's been some discussions around VRM that council doesn't seem to be engaging them well enough, and they don't seem to be as informed as they'd like to be. So this company is designed to help with that, to get the message out to everybody so that they're all informed better, see what works, what doesn't work, and hopefully everybody understands some of the decisions we make, that some things people aren't allowed to see, some they are allowed to see. So hopefully they'll give some clarification of that as well, and explaining when they're telling people what we're doing and what's going on in the RM as far as why we make decisions that we do.
Anybody else have anything? Yeah. It's a service that helps to with misinformation and rumors, helps to improve or to get the right message out. So that's accepting the help of a service like that to help get the message out. So call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Be resolved that council approve the quote from WestCan HR Services for a neutral third-party workplace complaint investigation and report. No, we're just doing it now. Okay, moved by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. We should discuss matters related to that, so call for the question. All in favor? Carried. 11.4. Be it resolved that council receives Lynn Forbes' April 10th, 2025 letter of complaint as information. Moved by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. 11.5. Be it resolved that the CAO arrange a meeting with Sioux Valley Dakota Nation Chief Takan regarding the urban reserve creation process.
Motion?
Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Drohan. Any discussion on this?
Feel preliminary, I think, for discussion on that, maybe after the meeting, be able to inform people better after the meeting.
Good point. Good point. Call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. 11.6. Whereas the applicants Nature Conservancy of Canada and Josh Dillabeau and the landowners Parker and Arlene Burney of the property legally described as Lot 8, Plan 2104, 57034 Road 101 West, roll number 128340, applied to vary the application of the zoning bylaw number 1664/03/2016 as amended under Part 6, Table 6-2 in order to reduce the minimum site area in the RR40 zone from 40 acres to 30.09 acres. And whereas council held a public hearing to hear representations in favor and in opposition to the application, therefore be it resolved that after careful consideration of the application and the representation made for or against the variance application, or sorry,
I think you better.
yeah,
I think so. Open to the appropriate.
therefore be it resolved that after careful consideration of the application and any representations more made for or against the variation, council approve variation application, variance order 002-25C. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Whereas the applicant and landowner Margaret Hamilton of the property legally described as Southeast 081019 55072 50th Street, roll number 67200, applied for approval of a conditional use order under Part 5, Table 5-2 of the Cornwall zoning bylaw number 1664-03-2016, as amended in order to allow for a non-farm dwelling in the Ag 80 zone by way of subdivision, and whereas council held a public hearing to her representations in favor or in opposition to the application. Therefore, be it resolved that after careful consideration of the application and any representations made or against, council approve the said conditional use application, conditional use 001-25C. Motion by Councilor Brown, seconded by Councilor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. There's a few of them here I gotta read. Whereas the applicant and landowner Margaret Hamilton of the property legally described as Southeast 08-10-19-55072 50th Street, rule number 67200 applied to vary the application of the zoning bylaw number 1664-03-2016 as amended under Part 5, Table 5-2 in order to reduce the minimum front yard setback for an accessory building in the Ag 80 zone from 38.10 meters to 10 meters, and wherefore council held a public hearing to hear representations in favor or in opposition of the application. Therefore, be it resolved that after careful consideration of the application and any representations made for or against, council approves the said variation application variance order 003-25C. Motion by Councilor Brown, seconded by Councilor Rohan. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Whereas the applicant and landowner Margaret Hamilton of the property legally described as Southeast 08-10-19-55072 50th Street, rule number 67200, applied to vary the application of the zoning bylaw number 1664-03-2016 as amended under Part 5, Table 5-2 in order to reduce the minimum side yard setback for an accessory building in the Ag 80 zone from 7.62 meters to 7.1 meters. And whereas council held a public hearing to hear representations in favor or in opposition to the application, therefore be it resolved that after careful consideration of the applicant and any representations made for or against, council approved the said variation application variance order 004-25C. Moved by Councilor Brown, seconded by Councilor Drohan. Call for the question. All in favor? It's carried. Whereas the applicant and landowner Margaret Hamilton of the property legally described as Southeast 08-10-19-55072 50th Street, rule 67200 applied to vary the application of the zoning bylaw number 1664-03-2016 as amended under Part 5, Table 5-2 in order to reduce the minimum front yard setback for an accessory building in the Ag 80 zone from 7.62 meters to 4.2 meters, and whereas council held a public hearing to hear representations in favor or in opposition to the application, therefore be it resolved that after careful consideration of the application and any representations made for or against, council approved the said variation application variance order 005-25C. Motion by Councilor Drohan, seconded by Councilor Brown. Call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Are we on 11-8?
Yes.
Be it resolved that council approves the application from Shared Tower Incorporated for a 50-meter self-supporting telecommunications tower at Northeast 8-10-19 West. Moved by Councilor Brown, seconded by Councilor Maxwell. Any discussion?
Sure, a lot of towers.
Another 5 gigahertz tower. Call for the question. It's supposed to improve cell service in that area. Call for the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Be it resolved that council accepts the 2025 AMM annual insurance renewal program with a total amount of $75,824 pending review or adjustments by administration. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. I call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Be it resolved that council has no concern with Jim Brown's provincial application for trial drainage at 31-119 West.
Make the motion.
Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question.
Just a comment, the cousin, but no conflict.
I'll also make a comment. We are going out and checking these public works results because the majority of them will drain into our infrastructure, so it's important that we're taking a look at them.
Yeah, I noticed in each of the applications that they were vetted by our public works before they recommended anything.
And just one other comment, I know it's, should be 31-0-19.
Oh, 01 there. Should be 10 or 0.
Oh, 0119.
31-0-19.
Oh, 0919. Instead of 3110. Section 31, Township 9, Range 19W. Thank you.
Call for the question. All in favor? That's carried.
Mr. Chair, did you?
Oh, you're right. My mistake. Whereas the dust control policy establishes the rate and fee for a single application of dust suppressant covering approximately 300 feet of roadway, and whereas recommended by the Transportation Committee, Council feels it's in the best interest to charge the application fee to reflect increased costs of the dust suppressant incurred by the municipality. Therefore, be it resolved that the dust control rate for 2025 be increased to $250 per application, which will give you 300 feet of coverage. Moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Drohan.
Just quick point of interest, we didn't raise the rate last year, right? And the price went up, so this was just a catch up.
Basically just cover our costs.
Yeah, we don't make any profit off this. It's strictly to cover the costs of the application. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Be resolved that council has no concerns with Phil Chapman's provincial application for tile drainage at Northeast 8-9-18 West. Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Again, this would have been vetted by our Public Works Department as well before they recommended. So call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Be resolved that in accordance with the Municipal Act, Section 152.3, Council does hereby close the meeting to the public and move in camera at 7:56 p.m. to discuss personnel, a matter that is in the preliminary stages and respecting which discussion in public could prejudice a municipality's ability to carry out its activities or negotiations, the conduct of an existing or anticipated legal proceedings, and the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an act or a bylaw, and therefore be it resolved that council agrees to keep in confidence all matters discussed at this closed session. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? And we are in camera. We're going to shut the meeting off.